Hey, what's up, comrades? So I just finished 15 days. I'm laughing because the way the game ends is ridiculous. What 15 days is, it's by the Adventure Game Company. I think that's what the name of the company is. They make adventure games. It's an adventure game. It's kind of in the style of like old Sierra games. It's much less punishing, but also much less interesting. And then the story just kind of like exists, and then it ends. And there's some interesting like reveals, but I never felt like anything was like that surprising. So, I mean, one of the main reasons I play adventure games and um, like visual novels is because of the story. The main reason I play a lot of things is for the story. I enjoy seeing what people can come up with like their inane schemes or like whatever kind of stories I got to tell. Generally, like most games, if they have a good story, they'll carry me through. And I'm not really big necessarily on things that don't have good stories, unless it's something just very kind of immersive. Like we're talking about like Crusader Kings, right? Where it's like make the numbers go up. Or it's like I'm building my own story in my head, like things I want to do. But then usually I tap out on those things pretty quick. I think I've gotten through Europa Universalis maybe twice, and then Crusader Kings once or twice. And then I usually don't get through like any of those other kind of 4X games. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I just got my contact. It's like really bugging me, and I'm trying to drive. Alright, hold on 1 second. Okay, that's better. Holy cow. I felt like I got stabbed in the face. All right. So 15 days. What else was I talking about? Oh, okay. Adventure games. Yeah. So I like stories. Blah 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 blah. All right. So 15 days takes place in 3 locations. It starts off in London, England. Then we go to Paris, France, and then we go to some island in Africa where this deposed tyrant was sent after like a revolution that was sponsored by like the British government. Okay. So the game starts off with a pretty good cutscene, where it's like it's a good cutscene, but I feel like it lies because it's selling me on like, oh, we're gonna have fun doing a heist, and well, yes, there are 2 heists. There's not much like heisting going on, if you will. Like, it makes it seem it's gonna be like an Ocean's 11 or the Italian Job or Logan Lucky. It's none of that. It's not nearly as exciting. It's fine. So these guys steal a painting. And then the guy who like owned the painting dies mysteriously. And so the main characters are Catherine, Mike, and Bernard. They're like a trio of homies that like live in this old loft, and they're doing things to like fight the power, I guess. And like she's got like a Che Guevara poster in her room in this loft, but I never really quite understood exactly how they're fighting the power. They just seem to be stealing art and then selling it, and then living on it, and then stealing more art. But they're not like stealing art. They have like another associate. Ooh, what's his name? Something. The art guy, he's the one who like paints the paintings that they steal. So when they steal the paintings, like no one will know that it's the painting that's been stolen because he's real good at art and stuff. Catherine also had a background of art history, where she like worked at a museum and did artsy stuff. We also find out that her dad is like a weapons manufacturer, or he owns like a weapons manufacturing plant. So she's a super rich girl who's like rebelling against daddy. And the father periodically will leave messages on the voicemail. And I think you actually talked to him one time. Yeah, you do. During the game, and he just like berates her and treats her poorly and tells her she's making a big mistake and she needs to stop being such a rebellious twat and stuff. And she's like, how about you go fuck yourself? And Catherine, she's like, I don't want to call her like a Laura Croft knockoff because she's not, but she's kind of got that same, like from the more recent Laura Croft games, the same kind of look. Like she's wearing like a tank top on top of like another tank top for some reason, and then she's got like cargo like capris, and like for a while I was like, are her panties showing? But it seems like she just has like pink shorts underneath them for whatever reason. I don't know. It looks fine. She's like pretty enough, and she gets referred to as like being very pretty by most of the men in this game. In fact, there's like a married guy who like hits on her at some point, and then like the big baddie at the end, he like flirts with her a bit as well. So they get a job from some African guy. So they meet up with them. Catherine meets up with him at the London Eye, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to steal this painting of." What was the first painting? I think the first painting was Winston Churchill. Yeah. So this painting of Winston Churchill that's hanging at like the museum, the modern British Museum, which is like the Tufts, I would assume, yeah, I think it's Tufts. I've been there once. So then the game proceeds, and again, it's a adventure game. Don't forget that. So then you got to like walk around the loft, pick up like the few. There's like 2 or 3 items. The game is very handholdy in that you cannot proceed until you have like accomplished the requested items, which is good because a lot of these old Sierra and LucasArts games, you could get somewhere and just be fucked. So there's no getting fucked in this game. But sometimes it's a little. I was like trying to figure out, okay, what do you want? And if I didn't pay attention, like, or if I'd zoned out for a second, I might have missed like the key piece of dialogue, and then I was just kind of meandering about, clicking on things. Which I played on the computer, right? So if you press the space bar, the game will like show you different things you can interact with, and you can like look at a lot of stuff and get like some information and some like character development. But at the end of the day, you're really just looking for like what can I pick up, use stuff on, which became more complicated because I got stuck a couple times where I was like, what am I supposed to fucking do here? Like at one point you're supposed to use like a stopwatch on cameras. I don't remember them ever talking about it to like time something so that you can do your heist. And I was like, I don't understand why or how I was supposed to figure this out, but I did because I used a guide. But the game's straightforward enough that you can figure most things out if you just kind of click around enough or like pay like somewhat of attention and like go back to some rooms. There's nothing where you really got to travel that far. Like you're pretty much stuck in one of like the 3 locations, whether that's London, Paris, or whatever. Like you're not backtracking somewhere else. So you steal the painting, you give it to the person, you get some money. You can so Mike. Yeah, it's Mike. Mike is like the tech guy. He's the one who does all the nerdy stuff. He's got a few mini games that you cannot fail because eventually the game will just be like, you want to just complete this game, and you're like, you can say yes or no. And one of them I did because I was I was having a real hard time trying to figure out what it was even asking me to do. But the other 2, I think he has 3 actually. The other 2 I was able to like get through pretty easily. Like they were pretty straightforward. So well done. 2 to 3 is not bad for these kind of games, especially when I'm like nominally paying attention and playing these games in like 30 to 60 minute like intervals over like a week, whenever I can like squeeze them in between like all my other responsibilities. And then Bernard is just kind of Bernard. He's got like an ex-wife or a wife, and he seems like hard up on cash because at some point he like kind of betrays the other 2, but then they like forgive him when he comes back. I was a little confused by that. There was like some hintings around him having like money problems, but then when Catherine, like, who's the real main character, tries to call him out on it, he like denies, and then after like one of their heists, he like disappears, and then like the police are involved in this whole thing because there was like a death of like a prime minister or something. That was kind of weird. And that guy's name is Jack. He's like the other main character, but like he almost just like bumble fucks his way around, and then at the end of the game, he seems like vitally important because. But all his stuff is like, most of his stuff is like sitting in the back of a van, making internet searches, and then calling people. That's like 80% of his gameplay. And it's very little, and it was kind of like, but why? And the time just seems to go by. Like, I don't know if the game's supposed to take place over 15 days. I didn't like clock in, but there were several times where it'd be like 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later. Right? So I'm like, oh, maybe it got there. But like I said, they also say the name of the game at the end of the game, which is stupid. Anyway, so after you hand off and get the money for the first painting, the guy asks you for another painting. This one of George Washington from the Paris Museum of Art, not the Louvre. You dumb fucks. I don't know. I've never been to Paris. I don't know. They could just be referring to the Louvre, but don't want to like deal with copyright issues. So you go to Paris and you find that like the catacombs, which if you know what the catacombs are, they're pretty cool. The catacombs are like this huge underground like necropolis underneath Paris that they used to bury like plague victims in, and it connects everything. Like it shows up in a lot of games, like Indiana Jones. It's like a very key point of like you're gonna have like an adventure game or like do something in Paris. You're either gonna like hit Notre Dame or you're gonna go to the catacombs or both. Like in Assassin's Creed 4? Les Revolutions. I think it was 4. That was a good one. People like really down on it, but I enjoyed it. It was like the last Assassin's Creed game, as far as I was concerned. It's number 4. Maybe kind of the English one, but I wasn't a big fan of that. I remember almost nothing about it. The French one, I remember many things about it. And then the American one wasn't really that good either. But and then Black Flag's a pirate game. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's it. So then they had Assassin's Creed was just a pirate game, and then it was open world RPG trash for 3 games in a row. And I played 2 of them and was so disappointed that I didn't play the third. And then the side-scrolling ones, which were pretty good actually. Anyway, I'm gonna get talking because again, this story is pretty basic and kind of boring. So then you steal that painting, and then you go, and then the lady, and then not the lady, the guy who's gonna take it from you, is like, "Aha! We don't need you anymore. The only person we need is the artist guy. So we kidnapped him, and I'm gonna shoot you." But then Mike does technology stuff, and then Catherine like slides out of there, and they run back to the loft, and the loft's been searched by the police guy who broke in earlier, and the Bernard shows up and he reveals everything, and then you're like, "Oh, this guy was working for this ex-tyrant who is living on this in exile on this island." So we should go do something about that. Why? I don't know. Maybe so they don't hunt you down. I was kind of vague on the reasoning behind that. Maybe because the police are after you and you want to get the paintings back. I don't know. There's some various reason. Plus, he's killed 2 more people. So after you find out eventually when you meet this guy that he steals these paintings and then he kills the people who like made them because they did him some sort of wrong, and he has this whole like colonial British and American blah 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 bullshit thing. And you also find out that he works with Catherine's dad, but that doesn't go anywhere. Like, he brings it up. It's very obvious that's who he's talking about. My partner, the weapons manufacturer, who has a daughter who also doesn't talk to him. And you're like, that's me. That's Catherine. And then the game just kind of like goes on its merry way and it never comes up again. So I don't know if there's a sequel to this game. There might be. I should look that up. Because, so Catherine goes, she infiltrates this guy, finds out all this information, sees all the paintings, rescues their friend. Oh, that's why they went. They went down there to rescue their buddy. So she rescues a friend and the police officer that got thrown in jail in here also at some point, like off screen. And then he's like, "You all gonna get arrested." And they're like, "Whatever, dumbass. You got yourself caught in something, so fuck you." Anyway, so they kidnap the guy, knock him out, drag him and their friend and the police officer, get on a helicopter, blow up like a thing in this island, and then take off to England. And then like a week goes by, and they're all just like chillaxing. And they get a knock on the door by Jack, the policeman, and he's like, "Hey, I quit." And they're like, "What? Noni?" And he's like, "Yeah, so apparently they just let, it's like Elgin, something like that. They let him go. And he swore he was going to take a picture of, or get a picture of Catherine, which, if you were paying attention to dialogue, is this not so subtle way of saying he's going to kill her. And if you missed that somehow, one of the characters literally says, "That means he's going to kill you, Catherine." And again, I was like, not the best writing on this game. On this clearly not Child's game. Thank you for telling me the thing that was super obvious if I had paid attention to anything. And then the police officer guy's like, "Well, I'm technically on vacation, and my police report doesn't include any of you people, so we just got to make sure all trace of you disappears so that you guys can escape and live happily, and I'm going to join you now, hooray!" And then one of the guys is like, "Well, how long do we got to like do all this like backtracing and hacking and stuff?" And he's like, "Dun dun dun, 15 days," and then credits roll. And in my head, I'm like, this was a lot less cool than the people who made this game thought it was. Anyway, that's 15 days. If I were to, I mean, I would never play this again. I don't play most games again unless it's like years later. But there's nothing driving me to want to play this game again. There's like nothing interesting or like challenging or anything. Am I upset that I played it? No, it was kind of interesting. It was like, it's a good example of like, this is a very mediocre game. Like, this is like, I would say like a 4 out of 10, right? Because for me, a 5 is like purely average. And this is slightly below average. Partially because I would almost give it a 5, except the fucking thing crashed on me so many times. Like, it would just crash. And if I'd forgotten to save, I would have to like go through. Thank goodness for most of this stuff, you could just like click through and then like escape out of like the like cutscenes, quote unquote. So it wasn't too hard to get back to where I was. It's just, I kept forgetting, because again, I wasn't playing this thing all in one go, that like, I gotta save like constantly. So when it does crash, which it will, multiple times, I'm not losing too much information. So yeah, so 4 out of 10, it's not bad. Not bad. But is it worth checking out? Meh, I don't think so. Like, if you're really hard up for like an adventure game that's just like breezy and is a story that is like again, the most interesting reveal was like, oh, that motherfucker's working with her dad, and then it doesn't go, and then it's never brought up again. 15 days. All right, catch y'all later.